episode 6 of Beers, Bourbon, Whiskey. Of course, it's your boy Q Lewis holding it down live from the 48205. Got my man Bo in the building.
I say.
And this week, man, I'm super excited because we got Joe Lewis, all right? We got the Joe Lewis joint right here, and it's called Joe Lewis, champion of them all, though, right?
The Brown Bomber.
Exactly, the Brown Bomber.
Brown Bomber.
Hey, look, so it's interesting. We gonna talk about all of this before we actually get into it, though. There is a connection to Detroit, obviously, with Joe Lewis, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So it's gonna be kind of near and dear to my heart. I actually learned a couple of things about Joe Lewis that I didn't know today by doing well, actually, Bo did a little research because I didn't do anything. So we're gonna get right into it in just a moment. This is again episode number 6, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, so that you can see all of the previous episodes from season 1 as well as season 2. Hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't seen a bourbon, whiskey, or scotch that we've done on this show that you would like to see, go ahead and put that into the comment box right now, and we'll at least consider it. You know what I'm saying? So as we did last week, we're going to get right off into the liquor so that we don't waste too much time. Before we do that, though, I know you did a little bit of research on it, and I think you kind of said something about where it came from and everything. But just for the people, what do you anticipate it to actually taste like? And I don't know why we do this, because I never get it right. So.
I gotta be honest with y'all. I was reading up on it, and I kind of read a little bit about the nose and the palate and whatnot.
Oh, you already?
Yeah. It just, I was like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have read that, right? I guess I'll go back to what I was thinking before that.
Okay, yeah.
I was thinking maybe it's gonna have kind of a caramel, maybe smoky finish.
Yeah.
Probably a little dash of pepper or something like that. You know what I mean?
Pepper. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's gonna be sweet though. I'll tell you that.
Okay, so I'm gonna probably be disappointed because I like sweeter.
Yeah.
Sweeter bourbons.
Might have some caramel taste to it. We'll see.
All right. So real quick, I do want to read the card that's connected to the neck of the bottle. So on the front it says "Keep fighting for your dreams" with a picture of Joe Lewis himself. On the inside it says Joe Lewis's rise to world heavyweight champion and American hero began when he became a Golden Gloves amateur champion in Detroit. All right, so that's that Detroit connection. His inspirational legacy lives on through these organizations today that together we support, which is the USA Boxing and Golden Gloves. It says $1 from your purchase supports USA boxing programs, and additional funding is provided to Golden Gloves of America through our local sponsorships. All right.
You can get drunk and be socially conscious.
Socially conscious,
okay.
Right?
That's what's up.
All right, so let's go ahead and bust it open. We'll get to the socially conscious.
Look what you do, man. You breaking all kinds of rules.
Oh, we didn't even.
Man, see this dude, y'all?
Let's put the cap back on there.
Yeah, they're gonna be the same. But
yeah, they're gonna be the same, right?
Man.
Right, we gotta punch it this time because it's Joe Lewis.
Duh,
right? Hey, look, I was struggling so hard with the thing.
I didn't even know what this. I was watching you do it. I didn't know what to say. Oh my God.
I was struggling so hard trying to get it off. I was like, I finally got it. So I was like, damn, let me take the top off. I don't know.
Stick his nose in the barrel and bottle and shit.
Right. Boogers. COVID-19.
90 proof, in case y'all was wondering.
Right, 90 proof.
90 proof.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't smell sweet at all. I'm gonna tell you what I'm not gonna lie, it smells like Buffalo Trace or Four Roses. That's what it smells like.
I pick up some caramel, I pick up some vanilla. Pick up a little cedar. Yeah, definitely some cedar.
I'm trying to see what it tastes like.
Palate, I get some oak, cedar, maybe a little bit of caramel up front. Finishes.
I think overall is a lot of wood in here. Overall, it's a lot of woodsy. It's woodsy.
And the finish is okay. Finish is kind of light. It's kind of got a little slight caramel finish to it, I guess. Maybe even a little cocoa or something like that. I definitely pick up a cedar in it though.
That's at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But it does go down sweet.
Yeah, I'll say.
Well, not sweet, but
yeah, it's kind of maybe like a caramel, smoky cocoa finish to me, kind of, you know.
Definitely a smoky kind of wood overtone though.
Yeah.
It's not bad though.
No,
it's not bad.
At all.
It's I guess from what I was anticipating, not exactly what I thought it was gonna be. Mm-hmm. But like definitely it's hella decent though. Yeah. I actually like it though. Yeah, I like it.
$40.
And for me, like it's for me to like it, honestly, for me to like it and it's not sweet, it's saying something. Because if it's not sweet and I like it, then it's probably pretty dope actually. Now this whole concept though of this Joe Louis brand, of course, like I said, we was doing some research before the actual show, and Joe Louis is kind of like not kind of, but is an icon basically from his upbringing. Now something I didn't know. Because we've got the fist downtown Detroit that commemorates Joe Louis, but what I didn't know is that he was actually from Alabama, right? That's what we said.
Born in Alabama.
Yeah, I never knew that. And for a moment, I actually thought he was born in the Bronx because they lightweight claim him too. So I guess he must have had some childhood years in the Bronx or something.
And so they moved to Detroit later on, and
right.
I think he was like in middle school or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when he started boxing. So that's why there's that connection to Detroit. I always wondered, honestly, like I really did. And the funny thing about it though is that I guess I should have known that he was born down south somewhere, because it seems like, of course, everybody who was black was from down south at some point, probably due to slavery, but we won't get into all that. But what we will get into today, man, which is our topic today, we just wanted to talk about, with everything that's going on, of course, with all the Black Lives Matters movements, all of the racism movements going on, we just kind of want to look at this aspect of being black and being in those services. So whether that be the police department or military services, like it kind of puts you into a position. So we want to talk a little bit about that. And again, this is really good though. Actually, it's actually pretty good. But we want to get into that because I think it's I just want to get a little sip real quick. I think it's an interesting position because this is a movement that has really been polarized. And what I mean by that, this is like the incident with George Floyd happened in Minnesota or Minneapolis or whatever, and you've got protests throughout the entire 50 states.
The world.
Right, the world, Craig.
Top of the world, Craig.
Exactly. But then outside of that, you've got international as well. I mean, it's people in Berlin protesting for black people.
Syria.
Berlin, right? You know what I'm saying?
Syria. They got a war going on right now.
They got their own situation going on, and they still took the time out to, you know what I'm saying?
Show some love, man.
Yeah, show some love, because, and this is something that I was talking to my man Kodak Lee on the phone earlier, and he was saying, like, the crazy thing about it though is that you got all these people like demonstrating, for our cause, and it almost feels like everybody around the world was just like, damn, we was waiting on y'all this whole time. Like everybody feel the same way, but it took us to spark everybody, because this is a major movement. I don't even think that it was a movement like this back in like Malcolm and Martin days. Like obviously the connection wasn't there because you didn't have social media. But I think this is reaching like every corner of the world. It seems like places that I didn't even think would be like advocating for us, they actually are, and that's because racism is a thing, and it's been entrenched for so long, dog. How crazy is that though? That we finally at a point, or I ask you that: do you think we finally at a point where we're actually making a move towards change?
I'll get to that.
Get to that.
First of all, I gotta say this before I say anything else. There's been a lot of white folks that come out and, I'm gonna use the air quotes in support, because I'm gonna be quite honest. I'm cautious, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's only some white people out there that I fuck with real heavy, and like I know they're genuine and things like that. And some folks, this might be, just a flavor of the month type thing for them, right?
All right.
So like, I'm just saying, if you support and you all about Black Lives Matter and be about it all the time, not just when it's convenient for you. Even when like some bad shit's about that, you got to still be about it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, don't even bother.
All right.
But yeah, all corners of the world, man. technology, like you said, social media, but like technology is like that one thing, you know. And I think the other thing too is, I think some of these countries already felt sorry for us because of old boy Trump and shit. You know what I mean? And with everything that's going on, it just fits right in line of like his whole little, I guess his base and his
philosophy. I call it
his Magites and all them. That's what the MAGA folk, Magites or whatever the fuck we call them. But all that just goes right in line with all that shit that he campaigned on and like that he does every day. So go back to your question. Ask me again one more time.
Do you think, like, at this point with this far reach, like with all the people that are kind of jumping into the process and into the support, do you think we actually had a good place to make a change, like a real change? I mean, I would like to think so because of the numbers, but I don't know.
I'm gonna say no right now, just because I don't see anything short term.
Right.
Like it's gonna be. I mean, we talking about toppling like a whole freaking intrinsic system of like systematic racism. That's been built for centuries.
It's gonna take generations.
It's gonna take some time. Like. Unless cats really about that drama, right?
That revolt.
Yeah, that real revolt. Like revolution type shit. Yeah. It's gonna take some time, and you got to show that same energy because it's not gonna happen. I know we in the age of instant gratification. It ain't gonna happen like that.
This definitely ain't one of those things. Yeah,
that's just not one of those things that's gonna work like that. And people got to be okay with that. Next year this time it just can't be like, oh, remember last year when we did this? Oh yeah, that was dope.
Oh no, this is gonna go. I look at it like
this. Can't be like that.
If racism has lasted this long, the fight to overturn it is going to be even longer. So if you're talking
especially if you want to do it peacefully.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it real.
I feel what you're saying.
I'm keeping it real, bro. If you want to do it peacefully, have that velvet revolution they call whatnot. Yeah, that's the term for it, right? Yeah. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this is where we getting into the conversation today, though. As far as those of us, the black people that are represented in those police departments, in the military, puts them in a pretty tough position when it comes to protesters and people demonstrating. And this is another thing, real quick, before we get into that. I was talking to Angry Man about this other day, and I said it on my show last week. I really for black people, I want y'all to really be cognizant of the words and the language that you use. Do not get caught up in the media and especially the white media aspect of calling these demonstrations riots. Do not get caught up into that verbiage, because the way you describe things, like that's how you create the narrative. Even some of those that became unpeaceful, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, where people may have been looting and things of that nature. I'm still not ready to call it rioting because it's gonna have a negative connotation. So at this point, I just want to, for black people, I think when you're talking about demonstrations and protests, I want you to really use those words. Don't get caught up into the mainstream media use of the word riot, because that's how they changing the whole negative. This is supposed to be something that's positive. We moving forward into where we should have been in the first fucking place. But you definitely don't want to subtract it by saying rioting. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. But for these people that's like in the military, let's say National Guard or even the police department, when they come out to, I guess we'll say police these protests, and then you confront it with the job of keeping your people in check. And a lot of times, if you've ever been to any of these protests or any of these demonstrations, some of these police departments, and obviously we know the military get physical, but some of these police departments get really physical. Like, you coming out for a protest, and the police department is telling you that they are in support of you, but they in full riot gear. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is intimidating. I talked about this last week, and there was a demonstration in my neighborhood. I went. I wasn't able to get out because I got there so late, so I had to drive through. But like, you could feel the tension. Like, when you see people say like, yeah, that'll never happen to me. Like, the police, like, fuck the police and all that. I feel that, right? But then when you're surrounded by police in riot gear, like, it is intimidating, dog. Like, it's a different feeling. So to be in your own black community and be in riot gear, like having a pepper spray or subdue like people in your own neighborhood, the same people that you want to walk alongside of. How do you deal with that though? Like if you was a police officer, and let's say like obviously you were born and raised on the east side of Detroit. Let's say that you were a Detroit police officer and it was a demonstration on Gratiot College, which it was, and like you see people in your old neighborhood that you had to quote unquote police doing a protest. How would that make you feel? What would you do though? Like as a police officer, obviously you have a duty. You have a duty to do. So like as a black police officer, what would you do in that situation?
I don't think any of us know, right? I mean,
right, really.
And I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into that. You know, some cats is worried about their family, some cats is worried about their pension, some cats is worried about like. I get all that stuff, you know, like I understand that. Yeah. And I'm not saying they should react one way or another, right? You know, I'm just speaking for myself. But at some point, if things get bad enough, at some point they all going to have to make a choice. True. You know, and that's going to come down to like, do I do this job, you know, that I was hired to do, right? Or do, you know, I mess with my people? Yeah. And personally, my opinion on the situation, if it comes down to like you have to physically, you know, like you got to be physical with some protesters and civil unrest and all that type of shit. Like, if I was a police officer, I don't think I could do it, man. Like my own folks, my own people, and I don't want to hear none of that shit. Like, so these docile ass Negroes, right, want to talk about.
We back on that.
Yeah, want to talk about your people are Americans. Mm-hmm. My people are the people that look like me. Like, you know, I get that shit you trying to sell with America and all that shit. Yeah. Like, that shit was really real. That shit was really true. We wouldn't be doing this shit in the first goddamn place, right?
We wouldn't be in this place,
exactly, right? Sure. So, in that case, the way I look at it is, I got to be with the people that look like me. But even then, I still got to be careful, right? Because you got some of these docile ass Negroes out here that's going to be, you know, they're going to commit treason against their own people, basically, right? Right. Sure. You know, and in the military, and I ain't gonna get on the military yet. I'm gonna keep it on the police department for right now.
For right now. We get into it though.
So yeah, you know, it's you're going against that blue code and all this good stuff and blah blah blah, and that's why I'm with the whole argument about. Again, I'm a democratic socialist. I'm with the whole argument about defunding the police. Yeah. And that doesn't mean so for y'all folks out there that want to be lazy intellectually, defunding police doesn't mean like we're just not going to have police. Mm-hmm. There's going to be other alternatives that you come and deal with certain things, right? Like how in the world does it make sense? You know, so like somebody is, you know, having like some kind of mental breakdown or whatever, and we call the police like to come deal with that. Like they're not trained and equipped to deal. They're trained one way to deal with that, and that's with violence, right? Or to apprehend somebody. Yeah. So, you know, why wouldn't you call a mental health professional to deal with some of those things? Right. Yes, I get it. Some of those situations may get sticky, may get whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you can call in whatever civil defense force or whatever you have to deal with that, right? So defunding the police doesn't mean like it's going to be anarchy. Like we all going to be running around here doing crazy shit. Exactly. You know, and it's as easy as going to Google and plug it in there and at least getting a general idea about what defunding the police means, right? Yeah, so sure. I don't want to hear any of those arguments about blah 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 blah. That's just being lazy.
Because you will get those though. If you look at the words like at face value.
And that's why you got to dive deep into that shit, right? Definitely.
Now in those situations, especially, and I can't remember what city this was when. Basically, the police was coming down the street shooting motherfuckers with rubber bullets. Like
Minneapolis, I think. I could be wrong.
I think it might have been. And these people not even protesting. Like they enforcing like
curfew.
The curfew or whatever. And people like in their front lawns getting shot. Like for that, I ain't with the shit. At this point, you know what? I'm gonna have to be honest with you. From this point forward, I think, and this is probably how we should have been looking at it. But like from this point forward, I think that when you black going into whatever type of job that you have, corporate or civil I was about to say civil defense, but civil workers, people who work for the cities, I think you really got to go in with a plan B, because there are going to be situations that's going to pit you against your morals and the people that you ultimately come from. And I think that in order to kind of face those things with any kind of courage, you're gonna have to have some kind of plan B, so you can be able to be like, you know what, I ain't with this shit. And it's a messed up thing to say, but it's like, because you're thinking about, like you said, the livelihood of your family, the livelihood of your pension, all of this good stuff. But at the end of the day, none of this is guaranteed. Corporations putting the locks on shit without you knowing. Like, you sleep, think you going into work the next day, you pull up and there's a padlock on your shit. Like, it's really going down like that, so you kind of got to have a plan B. And I think when you're going into law enforcement and even people in the military, there's going to be some tough decisions. Me, myself, if I'm in that police department and it start going that way to where we like police in neighborhoods, like at this point, I got to figure out an alternative, because I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not going down 6 Mile and Hoover and shooting motherfuckers on their front porch with rubber bullets because it's 8:02 and they standing outside. Nope, I ain't doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you don't get shot back,
Now what's going to happen then?
Exactly,
yeah, what's going to happen then?
And then all of a sudden, this person, whoever house they shot into, and if that person decides to shoot back at them, now that person is evil and blah 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 and this and that. Where you don't know what's in that person's house. Like, they're not doing anything, standing on the porch. You don't know if there's a little kid behind that wall or window or whatever the hell's going on, right? So, yeah, in that situation, I would not blame anyone if they was to shoot back. That shit happened.
Yeah, and then it can all go wrong. It can all go left after that, but...
and the other thing, too, I kind of want to call out, because it's been some docile-ass Negroes that are supporting the police out here, and I don't support the police. I'm totally anti-police. Like, totally just get rid of them. Like, defund the police. We got to find other ways to protect, the citizenry and all that type of shit, right? Because obviously, like, I think it was back in 2015 or 2014 or whatever.
Before Killer Mike started talking about all his family members being police, Bo is also in that same situation, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, your old man was a police.
I ain't gonna bring that. Yeah, my old man. Yeah, whatever. But and Killer Mike, he lost you on that and shit, man. Like, he lost you on that one. Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead.
But yeah, the thing is, like, totally not. Like, I am not with the support of the police or anything like that. I forget what year it was, 2014 or 15. There was some kind of report that came out, and I don't forget all the details, but basically the FBI had a report, a study done, and said, like, it's some deep, like, white supremacist ties in a lot of these police departments, right? Like, a lot of them, like, significant percent. I can't remember the exact numbers. You guys got Google. You can Google it, right? And they basically did nothing about it. So I can't support, like, an organization that has such deep and, like, visible ties to white supremacy. Like, I can't support that. Like, that has to be demolished. There's no amount of reform or anything you can do to fix that. Like, it's got to be torn down and a new system has to be, built up. So that's why I don't support the police, like, at all. Like, and I got, don't get me, a good friend of mine I used to coach ball with, he's a Detroit cop. Okay. I mean, yeah, like, we all gotta make sacrifices, dude. Like, for real. If it came down to it, me and him, like, you're not with me, you against me. Yeah, and that's just the way it is, right?
But I think, just like how you were saying, though, if there's an FBI report that's showing all of that, what was the point of them doing all of that research if they wasn't going to step in? What exactly does the FBI do, though? Like, you can go back to all these or declassified notes now and these declassified files, and you see that they know all of this stuff. So why they never tried to fix it? And obviously, that the white supremacy is entrenched in law enforcement because of the whole reason laws were invented in the first place. So none of this shit ever changed. And that's what we're trying to say when we tell you that racism is entrenched into, like, the structure of America. I don't know why it's so hard for some people to understand that shit. Like, I don't know why that's so difficult to understand or to see at any point. But because of that, it's gonna take a long time to overturn a lot of that shit. But I know one of the kind of schemes was, like, people used to say back in the day, is encourage black people to become police officers so you can change from within. I don't really think that's a viable. Like, I really don't think that's a viable thing.
There's a lot of whole-ass black police officers out there, too.
A lot. Honestly, it may be more. It may be more.
A lot of clowns out there, black police officers, boy.
Yeah, I actually know one or two, but we won't get into that. But yeah, so with that, I don't even know.
I shouldn't say showing out for the white cop.
Right, showing up for the white cop. This is real shit though. Like that really be happening, and I think it's a power thing for sure. And that's why I say this on plenty of other shows. I think that unfortunately it is a lot of like black and white police officers who, before they became police officers, they had like an inferiority complex. So once they get that badge, they feel they abuse their power. And I think that happens a lot, and you look at it as like a white on black thing, which it ultimately becomes just because of the more black people get arrested. But I think that abuse of power thing is just the same across the board, black or white. So I want people to understand this. When I went out to protest on what day we went?
Friday.
On Friday, and this is against racism, and it is against police brutality. But I do want y'all to understand that this is, for me, is a blanket statement to the police in general. I don't want black police officers to think that they get in the pass because they black. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want you to think that, because at the end of the day, how can I say this without being rude and shit? But I think at the end of the day, you are a part of the problem. There's a lot of black police officers right now. You may have not put a knee in somebody's neck, or you may have not been what's the word? This shit, man. What is it called? Too over aggressive is a word for it that they use though. But yeah, you may have not done all those things in an arrest, but you've got counterparts who have, and you haven't checked that system. So to me, you part of the problem. And I know it kind of sucks to say that though, because it goes against the grain of when people say we need to insert our own in there to overturn the kind of thing. But I think what I'm feeling like is that we just need to be in control of our own, police our own community. And if you can't do that, this is at least what I would need. And I think I mentioned this last week or on one of these other shows, but we need at least we need a group comprised of our actual citizens to at least perform the checks and balances on these police departments. At least that. Like there needs to be, for a lot of the city council members that honestly in the city of Detroit, to me, don't do shit. We could take some of those, we could allocate some of those dollars to an actual group. Yeah, so excuse me, like if we had a group like just kind of assigned to the checks and balances of those departments that serve us, that could at least go something to go in the right direction. Now I know you said that even if you got that though, right? It's like it's still gonna be the same people in there. So I guess from your standpoint, it's kind of like you need to get those people out of there. Fuck the checks and balances, right?
Yeah, usually I'm on some little compromise type shit, but like this, to me, this situation to me is either all or nothing, man. Like,
yeah,
you have to do what you need to do to deconstruct or demolish or whatever word you want to use, this system, this culture of white supremacy and racist ass police, right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't think like putting a community advocacy group or some shit like that in the police department was going to do that.
Essentially, that's what it'd be.
Yeah, I don't think community policing is going to do that. Because a lot of these cops don't, like, they don't want to fuck around in the community and shit. They don't want to fuck around with these kids and shit like that. And people are going to say, well, then you just find cops who do. And, like, y'all don't understand how strong some of these police unions are out here. Like, you just can't. And that's why a lot of these motherfuckers get their jobs back and, like, get placed at other, different police departments. These police unions out here strong. Mm-hmm. Like, they out here for real strong. And, like, they lobby just like any other organizations lobbies and whatnot, right? So that's what I'm saying. You got to blow the whole system up, man.
So how do you do that though?
What's that?
Just by defunding?
Defunding is like it seems like again, if you want to keep it peaceful, defunding is the way to go.
Right.
And how you do that is like people protest. You have civil unrest. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna use the word riot because I think riots can be useful and shit, right? Yeah. And I know the negative connotation, but I don't really care about what white folks think, so I'm gonna use that shit, right?
You don't care about what it sounds like?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
So, that's the other way. But and I do vote. And I know we talk a lot of shit about voting for president and shit like that. Uh-huh. I vote in my local elections because I see that change every day in front of me and whatnot, right? Exactly. So when you put people into these positions that they believe in that same shit, okay, I'm with it.
Right.
Like, okay.
For sure.
I'll give you a shot then. Yeah. See, and what Malcolm say about ballot or the bullet.
Right, for sure.
So it gives y'all a shot.
Now,
the thing is, though, we've been giving cats shots for like the last how many ever years. At some point, it's got to be.
Fuck years, I mean generations.
What's the end game? And
Right.
when is that? When is, you know what I mean? So those are things, we just can't keep having discussions, and because we all say, yeah, this discussion needs to be had, and this is blah, blah, blah. I'm sick of talking.
Those meetings.
So sick of talking.
It's like meetings in corporate America, though.
So sick of talking.
So sick of talking, right? Now, I know it's a lot different between the police department and the military. I mean, obviously, the police department, you can quit if you want to. In the military, you kind of contracted. You know what I'm saying? Like you owe yourself to them at this point. Now, with that being said, some of these, when you look at everything that's going on from state to state, and like the National Guard being involved from a state standpoint, but then you got 45 like clearly saying that if you can't get it handled, I'll use my U.S. authority to send the military in there to handle things differently. If you're in those squadrons being sent out to, like, I don't think people understand the what that is. You are sending American soldiers to battle Americans. I don't think you understand the depth of what that statement means. I don't even know if people understand. Like, the National Guard is one thing, but to have the U.S. military, dog, like on your block, it started looking real third world country-ish, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not with that shit. And if you signed up, though, and your battalion gets sent in, what can you do? Because, like, you are assigned, right?
Well,
other than going AWOL.
several things in it too, though. Like,
okay.
So the active duty military
right.
cannot be sent into a state to police American citizens unless it's at the request of that governor.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So, National Guard, like, yeah, the governors can activate, mobilize National Guard, stuff like that. Donald Trump did it in D.C. to get that picture in front of the church. But the loophole is Washington, D.C. is not a state. It's the District of Columbia. So he can activate the active duty military in that area.
Okay.
It's not a state.
Damn,
so that's the one loophole with that. And that's why that shit happened. Yeah. But yeah, when the military is policing and controlling the population, it's like, I know National Guard being activated for Corona and all that type of shit,
exactly.
and like support roles.
Yeah.
But to actually go out and patrol and like stuff like that, your own American citizen.
Your own, that's deep.
Yeah, like cats can go AWOL, cats can do this, like it's gonna be some hard decisions that need to be made. Like you got your black soldiers and your black service members out there, and like that. See, and the one thing that kind of sprung me on all of this. Just saw a little clip on Instagram earlier this morning, and it was a black National Guardsman,
right, yeah.
And the crowd was, saying, "Hey, I'm black and I'm proud."
Yeah.
And they was filming him, and he was saying it under his breath.
Yeah.
So already there's some conflict in him. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Damn, I'm black and I'm proud, but I got this uniform on and shit.
Exactly.
So like, it's gonna be some hard. Like, some cats, like, you can't just like, all right, I quit, I'm done. You can't just do that, right? So it's gonna be some hard decisions that need to be made, and some people have to make sacrifices, and like and my thing is this: if that begins to happen, if that starts to happen, there's a whole nother problem then, right? Because that's like you are breaking from the military to fight against the military.
Yeah, that's
what is that?
That's a whole.
That's treason. A civil war. That's right. That's treason. And that's what I'm saying.
That's treason.
These docile ass Negroes, like, yeah, that's treason. But really, if you don't do it, that's treason against your own people.
It is right. So at this point, you just gotta figure out which is more important.
Yeah, which one you want to fight for.
Damn.
Where you down at? Which one you want to fight for?
That's a serious situation, and I think that looking at it from both of those angles, I think is why there has never been like any amount of consideration on my end of either being in any police department or the armed forces, because I never want to get presented with that choice, because I know where my choice would be. So I don't want to put, for instance, like if I got a squad and we getting sent somewhere, I don't want to put my squad into a position because I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
And see, that's another dynamic too, right? So yeah, your everyday soldiers, yeah, they're gonna have to make that decision.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to like your black NCOs and your black officers that are actually commanding these units, right?
Right.
So like myself, I was an officer. I was in command of a company at one point. I got some friends right now that are battalion commanders and shit like that. Obviously I ain't gonna say no names and nothing like that, but
for sure.
It's what if some real shit happened? Like that's you got 800 soldiers under your control.
Yeah.
Like what do you do?
Yeah, you can't dip off on their ass.
Yeah, and like you got to take care of your soldiers. Like that's the number one thing. That's the number one rule for all leaders. You take care of your soldiers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you fighting that. You fighting like your so-called duty or whatever. And then it's like you got to make the decision. Like, do I hold this up or do I go over here and I'm running with my people?
Man, look. So if you've never understood.
Boy, that's tough, man.
If you've never understood how tough it is to be black in America, this should be one of those amplifiers for you, because you talking about this is something so serious to black people though, because those same men and women in uniform can easily be George Floyd or old girl Breonna Taylor. Taylor, that was her last name, right?
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor. Any of these people in a uniform could easily be on the other side of that. So you dealing with that, and just like my man, like under his breath, like like he want to be out here with his people, but he can't. That's a struggle all in his own, and could almost and this is probably kind of a weird way to look at it, but this is probably going to become a problem of its own. So like we out here fighting racism and everything, trying to overcome, and we've actually shed light on a whole nother problem. Do you think we can? Because I think this is the question I got. Do you think we'll be able to do both of those in one thing? Because if we fighting racism, we're shining the light now on those black people in the armed forces and in the police department who have to kind of go against their own morality. Like, so are we able to fight both of those fights at one time? I feel like personally, I don't think we can. I think if you fighting one, the people that's stuck in these positions where they got to make decisions on that, I think they fight is still going to exist. Like even if we start actually moving forward in the quote unquote fight against racism.
I think it's the same fight though, right? Because
really,
yeah, because
you got to explain that.
Yeah, I think it's the exact same fight, right? Because if I'm fighting against this establishment, this organization, or whatever you want to call it, like if that black officer, if that black soldier decides not to leave his post and not to fight with his people, I'm fighting against you.
Right.
If you're not with me, you're against me.
Right, for sure.
Like, so it's a hell of a decision to make.
It is.
I'm not taking nothing away from it.
Yeah.
But like, because I'm not fighting against my people. It comes straight up, right? So if I got to fight against somebody that looks like me, that got on a uniform because they refuse to join their people, then so be it. I'm going to have to do that shit.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it's that way. But
it is
a collaborator's a collaborator. You know,
for sure.
It is what it is.
I feel.
You know? So that's why I don't think it's two different fights.
Yeah.
It's probably two different things they have to deal with it, obviously.
Yeah, it's two different things they have to deal with.
You know?
Definitely.
But as far as, me or whoever else that say, hey, I'm going to take up arms against these folks.
Right.
Then, no, it's all the same fight to me.
Yeah.
Because I got one goal.
Yeah. Now, with a peaceful process, though, like a whole peaceful process like we was talking about before, how long do you think it really would take to get forever? So I think, in my mind, I feel like you thinking that it ain't never really gonna happen unless niggas really start like revolting.
So I wish I could remember the name of the author. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he's like, he's not like a historian, but he's a PhD in some kind of black studies or whatever. I really should know this. But basically, he wrote a book that was like, it looked at the negativity from the racial standpoint, you know what I mean? So, but he wasn't talking about like the 1960s, he's talking about like now. And all the things that we're doing now, like, and everything that's happening, what is it going to eventually lead to?
Right.
Like what? Because he made a good point in saying that like there wasn't really any identity for black folks prior to, and I'm going to explain this a little further, prior to slavery.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like we refer to each other as black folks now, right?
Yeah.
Before slavery, there wasn't a black.
It wasn't a black.
You know,
right.
this person was from this tribe, or they were from here, or they were from this nation, or this country, or whatever.
Right.
It wasn't black.
Gotcha.
So then his thing was like, how do you unite under something where there's really
no
fundamentally there's no identity? I know there is an identity, and I'm not saying there's not. But fundamentally, going back, before 1619, there's no real unified identity. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we'll never know that because all that history was just gone and trash, and now they just stole people and took people and whatever.
Right.
But long story short, he didn't have a happy ending. He was just like, ultimately we may be fighting just to be fighting right now because we have to, realize the possibility that like this may not end the way we wanted it to end.
Right.
And that was some real truth for you.
That's some real shit. Like, yeah, that's some truth for your ass. Yeah.
So like, his thing was, he was looking at it from all angles. Is it worth it to fight? Is it worth it to do this? Blah, 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 this and that. And he wasn't backing up and endorsing any one approach. He was just looking at it from a real macro type level. It's like, this is all the shit you're going to have to deal with if this shit does happen, And I'm gonna look it up. You can go ahead, because I got to look it up because, it was real interesting. You folks, you get a chance, listen to him.
It's just a hella different dynamic to be into. Like, even if you want to go back to, really quickly, just to go back to Joe Louis and his stint as a boxing champion, and we talking about in the 30s back in those days. I mean, obviously it was a lot harder back then. So we got to deal with trailblazing. Like, we got to break our own molds, and then once we break the molds, we got to figure out a way to exist within the machine and still fight against the machine. These are things, and I'm not complaining because I love being black, and if I had a decision to do it all over again, I still would, only because I don't even understand what it's like to not be. But like, these are the difficulties that we encounter, and that's what I know you always say, docile ass things. I just think that it's a lot of different perspectives from black people.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because, just to kind of go back to when we went to the march on Friday, I happened to find the Facebook post for the actual event, and you wouldn't believe. Well, I mean, you would believe because we know black people, but even within there in the comments, it was black people arguing back and forth about how they set it up, who should be in charge of it, and this, that, and the third. Like, it's so much arguing amongst ourselves that I know Money always say this shit, and I feel like he's a pessimist, but he always feel like there'll never be enough unity to make a for real movement. You think there's any truth in that? I mean, because it's a bleak outlook on things, but like, you believe that?
I believe aspects of that, yeah. And before I go further,
you found it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my man's name is Dr. Frank Wilderson III.
Okay.
His book is called Afro-Pessimism. You know what I mean?
You just happen to be talking about pessimism.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, and that's his whole thing. Is just like, what is the identity? What do you unite on? And where does that come from? Is it sustainable? All those type, like, questions that need to be asked, right? And obviously, you're not gonna have 100% plan. That shit just ain't gonna happen, man. But I think it's just, good shit to have on your mind, just to think about. But to answer your question, just it's very unlikely, I think, right?
Yeah.
My thing is, you got to fight to have a chance. You know what I mean? You just can't be like, oh man, well, we can't win this, so might as well just deal with what we can deal with, and I'm not cool with that.
Exactly.
Like, I'd rather fight and have a chance. And like, what's that? One of the, I forget what book it was. But said one of the most romantic things in life is, a hero, like a revolutionary dying for a lost cause or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, and I'm not saying I just want to go out there and become a martyr or nothing like that either. You know what I mean? I still want to go travel and do some things. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But like, if it comes down to that, it comes down to that.
So, speaking of martyrs,
yeah.
I really hate bringing her name up, dog. But real quick, we got to talk about Candace Owens. Yes, dog. So, if you didn't see recently, last week, she posted. Candace Owens posted I believe it was a YouTube video about how she was not a fan of George Floyd and how he definitely shouldn't be seen as a martyr or anything of that nature. And she went on to say how black people are the only culture that uplift, their worst.
Yeah.
And I cringe every time I listen to anything she say, and like I really, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but I really sometimes be trying to figure out where she coming from. Like I really do, but then sometimes it's just hard to bear. But when you got people like her within the culture, or like my man say, she's in the culture but not of the culture, right? But when you got people like that, I think they ultimately destroy any kind of movement that you're trying to make. And there's plenty of Candace Owens. Like there's plenty of them. She's got a large platform, so you recognize her, you hear her voice. But there's plenty of hers out here. How can we ever expect to make a major movement with people like that in the culture? Like I started then seeing that pessimistic view. I understand why people just like, man, fuck it. And then people started just going out for solo, for that, for them and their family, and fucking movement, because you got so many people kind of, the whole crab in the barrel kind of thing. And I always say it about us. I mean, obviously because I know my culture, I know us and shit, but I'm pretty sure that other races deal with the same thing. But for some reason, I feel like ours is so much worse. It's like it's so many people just. And I don't know if it's them. I think the system and the realities of the world have kind of made them feel like there's no way out. So then they begin to pull us down at the same time. And I don't think that's something we can change in my lifetime or motherfucking kids after us. So like when you think like that, what you supposed to do then? Just let it go.
I mean, if you look at any revolution, whether it be it peaceful or violent or whatever it is, there's never any perfect plan. There's never any,
that's the thing,
10 point, then we need to do X, Y, and Z. Like, you fight, and you fight because you're passionate about what you're fighting about, you know what I mean? And like I said, whether that be is peaceful or violent, as if you believe in it, you believe in it.
Right.
And you're going to come to terms with, like, you're going to have to fight some people that look like you. Because they haven't unplugged from the Matrix yet,
Right.
And it's a shitty situation.
It is.
It is. But
just like
it's the reality, though. And it's just one of those things that if you decide to fight, however you do that, you're just going to be okay with doing it.
Right. And I mentioned this last week, and I probably mentioned it a lot now because like I'm super interested in this shit now. About the Civil War? You figure there were obviously freed Negroes that fought for the Union, and then there were slaves that fought for the Confederacy. And I think there's a narrative that makes it seem as though some of those slaves from the Confederacy were kind of forced into action because they were slaves. But like you got to understand the reality of it is that some of them was fighting for the Confederacy out of their own will, like because they had become so entranced by the system that this is what they thought life was. This is just like after slavery, supposedly after slavery. Once they was free, a lot of slaves just didn't know what to do because they had got so used to being in the system. And you can use the word slave loosely because there's a lot of people that's like that now. Like if we actually were able to advance our culture into where it needs to be, like there was actually equality, we didn't have to worry about getting stopped and killed by a police officer, a lot of people wouldn't even know what to do with their freedom, dog.
So like, I'm gonna share this quick story with you.
Okay.
Somebody invited me to this Facebook group about the whole blackout, not what they just did on social media, but there's other. Okay. It's like 1 million people in this group, whatever.
I think I got it.
And the whole thing is about, on a certain day to save all your money and blah, 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 this and that. Yeah, that's fine, whatever.
I accepted it.
But I noticed the conversation in this group. And this one gentleman had posted the link to NAGA, National African American Gun Association. And black folks, like in the comments, clowning this dude, like, NAGA, what the fuck, that sounds like nigga, and blah, 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 and this and that, and what are they really doing? I never heard of them, and blah, blah, blah. What about the NRA? Like, Niggas
what I'm
that
talking
don't
about.
even know shit about it, didn't even take the time to go to Google and plug in
Right.
NAGA to educate yourself just a little bit. It's already just like hating on some shit and blah 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 and this and that. And here
Already
this brother
shit on
is
it.
already trying to share something with you.
Right.
Where if you don't want to do it, that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But I just couldn't believe some of the comments by other black folks. Just like, yes, I could believe it.
Right.
You know, but
believe
at the same time, I'm just like, fuck, really, dude? You know, and when there's so much strife and back and forth over a Facebook post, you know, and that's, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll always say it, and I always stand by this. You're going to have to find your 10% and roll.
Yeah.
You're not going to have superior. There's no revolution out there where they outgun the current regime and whatnot. They've always been underdogs. They've always been outnumbered. They've always been outgunned. You know, and the thing where they when they do triumph is like they just passionate about the cause.
Right.
The cause is it.
Exactly.
You know, not my family or not this or not that. Like it's the cause.
Yeah.
And a lot of those revolutionaries in history were willing to die for that cause.
True.
And there's a lot of black people that are. Don't get me wrong. I hate to see another black person ridicule someone that looks like them for that shit. You know,
especially without looking into some shit, though.
especially just.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't hip to NAGA, you know what I'm saying, before you told us and shit, before you, you start having this conversation about it. And, and maybe that's because obviously we know each other. But I think that a lot of people need to, if we go be, especially like, let's just take the Facebook group, for example. If you go be invited to this group and it's supposed to be a group about the movement, I feel like you should at least take the time out to listen to it before you antagonize it, because otherwise, don't accept the invite. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't come here to learn something, like, and don't get me wrong, it's gonna be some bad information. Like, you're gonna get some bad information, like, what the fuck was he talking about? You go look it up, and then you can be like, nah, I'm not fucking with that.
Another thing is, we can't have too many chiefs. Like, you know, some of y'all going to have to be followers. Like, some of us going to have to be followers.
No doubt.
We all can't be leaders. And I know there's a lot of alphas and things like that, both male and female.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to know when, like, all right, I'm going to have to, you know, I'm going to chill, fall back on this one, whatnot, you know, yeah. And I don't know if we're ready to do that. Like, especially black organizations, man. You know, I was at a protest out here in Ann Arbor, Ipsy area a couple weeks ago, and there's one community group, and I won't mention it because, you know, whatever reason. But there's another there's another black community group that has been around for a while.
There's one, then there's the other.
Yeah, and they got 5 letters, you know, and you refer to them as, right? And it was just, and like, I'm not trying to be funny, but like, it was just so much back, like at a protest. They're talking to the crowd, and they calling each other out at this protest, and I'm just like, dog, like, for real?
Defeating the purpose.
Like, in front of these cops and stuff like that. And like, when that shit happens, man, like, that's what I'm saying, like, these organizations, these leaders, you have to fall back at some point, man. Like, we can't serve everybody's agenda.
Exactly.
You know, and if you want to serve your own agenda, you know, go start your own little thing, I guess, right?
But you would figure if everybody is in it for, like, the same cause, then you would think that at least 80% of your agenda should fall in line with each other. You would think that, because if we all going towards the same common goal, how many fucking different agendas should we have if we really trying to go the same way?
You know, everybody's got a different agenda. You know, I don't know what the numbers are on there, 80%, 40%, 90%, whatever it is. But
95%.
Yeah.
99.9.
99.9, whatever it is.
Right.
The thing I do know is this, right? Like, the infighting is going to have to be it's never going to stop, but it's going to have to be minimized quite a bit. You know, if there's going to be any type of movement that goes on, whether that's peaceful, violent, or whatever, you know.
You gotta, and again, there has to be checks and balances, even, you know, within ourselves. But I think what we've learned from previous movements, even with, let's just use Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and when you're looking at the Black Panthers, you know what I'm saying, what was going on at the top tier there were differences of opinion. But they allowed those differences to play out in front of everybody. I think this is what you always say. about it's cool. A lot of times there are checks and balances that need to happen, but they don't always need to happen in public for people to use those against us. And that's what's happening when you're looking at we just use the Facebook group as an example. That's happening in public, like basically. So if you having like this whole feud inside a Facebook, a Facebook group, then people get to use that against you. You can check people in private. It's all right. You ain't gotta let everybody. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be right, and they want to prove to other people that you right. Like, you don't have to do that, dog.
Perfect story. Me and Shaw was talking about this at your house.
Okay.
The show Snowfall. There's a scene in Snowfall where Franklin Saint, he's a guy. And his number 2 goes and he does some deals on the side without Franklin's approval.
Right.
And it gets Franklin into like a lot of trouble. But what Franklin did is showed up with this dude. He had his homeboy's back and made sure dude understand what time it was, right?
Right.
And then they both left together. Franklin, he drives, he pulls over. It's like, hey dude, you put me in a bad situation.
Right.
Next time you got to come to me and blah 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 and this and that. And he ends it by going, he's paused and he goes, drive, motherfucker. But that part lets you know who was in charge, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, this is his thing.
Yeah.
He, even though you fucked up, I got your back and I'm gonna support you, but when we by ourselves, I'm gonna let you know you was dead wrong for that shit.
And that's where we need to be.
And you gotta be okay with that.
Yeah, you gotta be all right with that.
You know what I mean? That's it's gonna happen.
But nobody's ever all right with being wrong, it seems like. I'm okay with being wrong. I think I feel like as a leader in anything, especially be a good, decent leader, you have to be okay with being wrong sometimes. Because as a leader, you're going to make wrong decisions, probably a lot. But those checks and balances need to be there. But I was saying, a lot of leaders, man, they got to be comfortable with being wrong sometimes. Because, I ain't going to say be comfortable with being wrong, but being comfortable with being checked when you're wrong. Because as a leader, you're going to make some bad decisions. And it's okay to be wrong. Every decision not going to be right. Sometimes you're going to lead your troop into failure. It's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you knew that you had to make a decision and you made that decision, whether it be right or wrong. But if you got the right people around you, then that supporting cast should keep you in line. And you should be okay with that, dog. It is so many leaders that do shit and don't ever want to be checked. And that's the problem too. That's just like what you said about too many chiefs. It's if somebody's second in command has a better vision than you, it's okay, dog. It's all right. As long as we get into the same end result. And I hate to say it, but I think black people really have an issue with that. I wonder where that shit stems from, though.
Where it stems from is slavery.
Basically.
When they pit slaves against each other and things like that, and then when you get out of slavery, you're in Reconstruction and sharecropping times, the same thing. They still pit you against each other.
Right.
And it's been going That's what I'm saying. There's not going to be any reform that's going to get us to where we want to be, man. It's going to have to be a total It's got to be totally dismantled.
Blow the shit up and start over.
Yeah, and like I said, peaceful or violent, whatever one. I want the shits with whatever what it is, right? But I really wish, man, that I guess if I could rub a magic lamp and make one wish for this fight, is that we'd be willing to not so much point the finger at each other, but willing to call out each other's faults, but to learn from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because you see now, I see it, and I've been guilty of it too, right? So I'm always on the far whatever side of it, of this racial issue. I got to a point where I don't even want to compromise anymore.
Yeah.
Even when a compromise may be the best thing, I just rather not do shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I guess if I had that one wish, that we all just kind of be able to listen to some different alternatives, right? Because it's going to take we're gonna have to be like we say in the military. You have to flexecute.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible, but you have to execute, right? You know, so
execute.
you have to flexecute, man. It's gonna be some shit that's not gonna go according to plan, and you have to adapt on the fly, and you have to be okay with that, and you just gonna have to do it. You know what I mean?
Basically.
Yeah, it's not always gonna be a plan. It's not always going to be a strategy, you know, and believe me, that's tough for me because I'm always the one that's like, I need to have a plan, I need to have a strategy. What are my mitigating factors, things like that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen sometimes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So on the way out, because we go ahead and round it off in a moment here, then we gonna get back to the Joe Louis, you know what I'm saying?
Bomber.
You know what I'm saying? But I guess my question is, and I guess I answer it first, I guess, and then we'll go to you, give you a chance to think about it. Just thinking about all the things that we talked about today, like the black people being in the armed forces, being in the military and the police department, and kind of being caught at a crossroads between who you want to support or who you need to support, and what you need to do to secure what you got going on, you know, your livelihood. When you look at all those things, and then you look at the infighting, like you said, at the out here in the Ann Arbor area, with the two different groups, one with 5 letters, and and you just look at all of that, dog. But then you look at the grand scheme of things with people all over the world fighting for the same cause. I think I asked this in a previous episode, but I think with all of this going on, the question really is, are we in a better position to really make something happen? And I just want to say, like, to answer that question, because I've been thinking about this shit the whole show, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and go first. But I really feel like we're in a better position. We're in a better position, like, numbers-wise, to get things in motion. I don't necessarily think that we're in a better position to execute, though. I don't think we're in a better position to actually make things happen. We're in a way better position to make people listen. But, like, to actually make things change, I don't really think we in no better position than we was before. Now, that's kind of tough to say, but I really feel like that's where we at with it right now.
Yeah, I guess my answer to that would be, so I'll look at it from 2 different perspectives, right? If you're looking at it from the peaceful angle, you're going to have to rely. Yes, you're going to have to rely on other black folks, and that's fine. But you're going to have to rely a lot on other groups of people, other races, white folks and stuff like that, right? You have to rely on, you know, the Latino population and stuff like that. I'm not confident in that, bro.
Yeah.
I'm just not. Like, yeah, I got some white folks out there that I fuck with heavy. You know, a couple Latino folks out there I fuck with. I don't want to be just go down every group and like, yeah, I got these friends.
Right,
I got
exactly,
these friends,
right.
That's
but you know what he's saying, right?
Right, yeah. What I'm saying is just, you're going to have to really rely on other groups of people. And if you with the shits with that, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But realize that it's not going to happen on your timetable. It's going to happen on their timetable, right? You know, whether they're allies or not. And there's always like a point with allies. Like they're always willing to go, but so far, you know, because it's, yeah, you're gonna have your outliers where there's gonna be someone's they're gonna, you know, they're gonna jump on a grenade, right? Yeah, right. Some of them gonna be like that, right? Yeah. For the most part, it's not gonna be that. If it goes the more violent route, then no, you're not gonna really have to rely on so much on white folks. I think you're gonna rely more on your own people. Yeah. And that's gonna be tough because you can't fight conventionally. You're not gonna be able to fight. You're not gonna be able to beat the U.S. military conventionally. You're not gonna be able to beat the U.S. government conventionally, right? You're gonna have to be a lot of clandestine, you know, guerrilla tactics and stuff like that. And with that comes a lot of danger, a lot of risk. So you have to be okay with one of the two.
A hell of a lot of risk.
Yeah. You know,
sure.
You have to be okay with that risk. You have to be okay with relying on other groups of people. Yeah. Because, I mean, just to keep it real, they are still the majority in this country. And
no doubt.
Really, when they want shit done, like, shit get done, you know? I mean, right. To keep it really real, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess that's how I see it, man. Yeah. I don't think it's hard for me to say I don't think we're ready. Because no revolution is ever really ready.
Yeah,
you know,
it just kind of jump off.
Kind of jump off. And
just jump off.
Yeah, that's what I said. You got to adapt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Whether that's peaceful or violent. So, no, we're not ready. No, we're not in any type of shape to do that. But we might have to.
Might have to. I got you.
And you just got to be okay with it.
And though, just to kind of piggyback on that, I did want to say this too, though. I think the one thing, because we're gonna wrap it up, you better go ahead and pour you some.
Yeah.
But to kind of tie it back together to some other thoughts, it's just like, I think the good thing about what's going on now is that, let me see, I want to say this, because I don't want to shit on other movements before this, or like the civil rights movement and things like that. But I think the difference here is I don't think this one was really planned. Like, this was really a jump off.
Yeah.
Like, the civil rights movement wasn't literally a jump off. It was something they was trying to get going on. Kind of got spurred by some boycotts and a couple of little things here and there. But this shit right here was spontaneous.
This shit right here?
Dog, this shit right here,
nigga?
Dog, this was a jump off, and I think that's what made this a little bit different. So the jump off, I think, put us in a better position to make the world listen. I'm not real sure about whether it puts us in a better position to be like prepared to really make a change. But at the end of the day, like you said, like most revolutions, nobody was prepared for real. I think this is a jump off, though, and I think a jump off needed to happen. Unfortunately, that came at the lives of a lot of innocent people. And yes, Candace Owens, I said innocent people. I'm not gonna keep fucking with her. I know, right? I'm not gonna address her no more, dog. Anyway, but moving back to the Joe Louis, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, Joe Louis come from a different time, a time that was admittedly far worse than what we're enduring now. He was able to come out of that, like, individually, especially in a sport like at that point, you know, boxing really wasn't
dominated by white folks.
Exactly, right. So I think that he was definitely one of the trailblazers, which is why we've got his fist downtown Detroit. And one of the cool things about this too, that I was excited to understand here is that what was that, like maybe 3 years after he retired, he was actually a part of his brand. And that don't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of times, let's just keep it 100. A lot of times, white people just they make money off of your legacy.
The music industry.
Yeah, definitely.
The whole
sports, shit, whatever you want to call it, everything, culture, anything to do with our culture, dog. And like I said this before, man, I want y'all to feel this when I say it, because I've said it about 3 weeks in a row right now, and I think I'm gonna keep repeating it because I don't think people really understand. America loves our black culture, dog. They love our black culture. They love our black money, but they don't love black people, dog. I think I really need to feel that when I say that shit, because it's true. Like, they love everything you can give them, but they don't love you, dog. And that's where we at with the shit. But anyway, back to Joe Louis, dog. What you give it, dog? On the fifth scale from 1 to 5, dog, what you give it?
Fifth scale from 1 to 5, I'm going to give it 2 solid.
2?
Yeah, 2 solid.
What?
Yeah.
All right, so we in reverse, because last week you did a 2.5 or 3.
For Widow Jane.
Oh,
yeah,
Widow
I don't
Jane.
like this more than Widow Jane. But I still like it.
I do.
Give it 2 solid fist bumps.
So I'm going to give
Black
it...
Power fist.
For sure, Black Power fist. I'm going to give it 3, all right? I'm with the shits on this one. It reminds me a little bit... Let me see. I think it reminds me a little bit, if I can remember, because we drunk a lot of whiskey in between now and last season, but I want to say it reminds me a little bit of Four Roses with a little less bite, though.
See, I think it's more like a Russell's Reserve to me.
That was right in there.
I can see Four Roses, but...
That was right in there. You're right.
I can see a little bit more Russell's Reserve.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I'm going to give it a strong 3, though. So you say 2, I say 3. So we're in reverse on this one. I do like this one better than Widow Jane. And still, though, nothing's topping Uncle Nearest yet. And we did have, which one did we have last time? It's the white label. I can't remember the year.
We had the small batch.
Small batch. So that one, that was, I don't know, though. Did I like now I'm trying to remember. Did I like the original better than the small batch? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. We have to put that one on the last one. So we on 6 episodes now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did 8 episodes last season. Did we want to do 8 again this time just to keep it even?
Most likely.
Okay, so all right, we'll do 2 more. We'll figure out what those are. Again, if you're listening right now and we haven't had a whiskey, bourbon, or scotch, preferably whiskey or bourbon, but if you haven't had anything that you've enjoyed thus far, please put it into the comment box below, and we will consider having those liquors.
It's not Jim Beam.
So I had Jim Beam Devil's Cut. The Devil's Cut Jim Beam was good. You don't like Jim Beam at all? Like none of them? This nigga rubbing his forehead like rock and shit. No, so I'm gonna give it 3. He gave it 2 on this one, dog. As far as drinkability, something you would drink on a regular. Is this something you would drink on a regular?
On a regular, no.
Yeah.
Something I'll pull out from time to time.
Yeah,
That's
for
something different.
Okay. Yeah, so I give it a 3. Definitely not on a regular, because you know me, if you've been watching us from season 1 to season 2, you know, I've got a softer palate, so I like some sweeter things. So this definitely wouldn't be a day-to-day.
I think the dark horse, though, is Traverse City.
So, in case you haven't, Traverse City was episode 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, aside from the show, I've had 3 bottles of Traverse City. I can't even hold you up. The shit is good. This season is probably the closest thing to Bro Brothers. Bro Brothers for me right now is number 1 for this season. But a running close to would definitely be Traverse City.
Yeah.
And oh god, man, I really wish we could drink the other one because that shit was so good. The other one from Michigan that we won't even say the name.
Oh yeah.
But because that shit was good, I ain't gonna lie. So again, make sure that if you are checking us out on YouTube right now, that you hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell, so next time that we go live, you will get that announcement. And again, hit us in the comment box to let us know what other whiskeys or bourbons you would like us to give a try. Bo, on the way out, bro, any last sentiments you want to leave with the people?
Yeah, go buy you a gun. Learn how to use it safely. Train with that gun. Get you a license to carry. Teach your kids.
True.
Teach your friends. Have your friends teach their friends.
For sure.
That's all I gotta say.
Be ready.
You never know.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that. Definitely, I think learning how to arm yourself is very important now. You got to really change the narrative of what bearing arms means at this point. You got to take the negative connotation out of you got to take the criminal element out of firearms in the black community, because we do have that element, and so we got to change that. I think once we change that narrative for ourselves, possibly that narrative may be changed in the eyes of others, and it may possibly help with our communication between, of course, our community and law enforcement. Possibly, you know. Outside of that, though, if you get accepted into a group, learn what the fuck NAGA means before you start making asinine ass comments in the comment box. So to the next time, dog, I really enjoyed this conversation, dog. And real quick, though, I did want to give a salute to my man Ro, who actually passed away earlier, like right before we started recording this show. It's Romaine Harris. This is his legit name. If you're from the city of Detroit, you may recognize him as ENJ. He's a retired rapper at this point, from the 90s, early 2000s. Shout out to my man Ro, passed away earlier today, man. Shout out to the whole Harris family. Hey, look out for each other. Take care of each other, like my man Bo said earlier. You living in a time for real. If somebody cross your mind, you like, damn, I need to holler at that cat, or I need to holler at old girl, or a parent, a loved one, whatever. Take the time out to do it, because you just really don't know, like, when that shit gonna be your last one, dog. Not to be on a somber note, dog, but let's get up out of here. Shout out to Joe Lewis, man. You know what I'm saying? Definitely a good drink. But to the next time, man, you already know what it is. Beers, Bourbon, Whiskey Podcast, man. Everybody loves BBW. It's your boy, Q Lewis, holding it down live from the 48205. Got my man Bo in the building.
I'll show you.
We out here, man. We about to get blitzed. Check y'all out next time. Right, blitzed.